Hi everyone, Cristiano Galvão here from the Excel Turbo channel and from the organization of the Excel Weekend. I'm here live with Team Heng. You can hear the noise of the keyboards. He is very well prepared. And let's start. Let's go. Let me bring him to the cameras. Team Heng, thanks for accepting the invitation. It's your show. Thanks for coming and enjoy, everyone.
No worries, my pleasure. Thank you, Cristiano, for inviting me. Welcome, everyone. So good morning, bom dia, buenos dias, I think. Please tell me if I've mucked that up. Apologies. I'm presenting here from Australia, and so all I can speak is English. So apologies if I've ruined the language for anybody. My name is Tim Heng. I've been an Excel MVP since around December 2017. Someone's saying there's feedback coming through. Let me know if that's still coming through. I was messaging in the group as SumProduct, which is myself. It's not Liam. It's currently 9:30 here, so I'm not expecting Liam to be up. I've closed down the YouTube stream though, so I can't reply to comments anymore. Otherwise, we're getting that feedback. So I'm just going to be talking through. I'll try and respond to any questions that come through. Alrighty. So today's session is all about being a pro and how to use your top functions more effectively. The idea is that when people think advanced Excel users, they think you're a whiz at VBA or Power Query, or you're up to date with all the latest new tools like Dynamic Arrays and Lambdas and Lets and so forth. But from personal experience, I found that the guys who are real professionals in Excel are those who know how to make the most of the really simple functions, the really simple features. So on my agenda today, I've basically got a list of what I would call basic features and functions to talk through and just kind of explain how they work and how you can really make the most of them and show that you know what you're doing. So all of the things in my list are at least 10 years old, so they're certainly I guess, have been around in Excel for a very long time, but are also misused in Excel a lot as well. So hoping to try and educate a couple of people, hoping to try and teach even some, very experienced people some new tricks as well. But I also want this to be fairly interactive too. So I don't want this to be just my agenda of functions and features. This is the advantage of a live session. It means that I can kind of present something that's based on your feedback as well. So as we go through, if you think there's a great function that you'd like to sort of know how to use a little bit better, perhaps, or where you think maybe I've got a nice trick that I've got up my sleeve to kind of highlight a really cool way of doing things, then please throw it out there in the chat. I'll try and read it, or maybe Cristiano can kind of highlight it for me, and I will try and respond to that and see if we can't pull an example up on the fly. It's not just about me presenting a sort of a standard set of things in the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's all about taking on feedback from yourselves and just seeing what is it you'd like to see. So David in the last session has actually just stolen my thunder in terms of useful features, because the first thing I wanted to show you was my list of items on the left-hand side here, which are conveniently hidden using these grouping tags. So, David, thank you. So I've hidden a set of listed functions and a list of features, not hiding them by hiding the rows themselves, so not right-clicking and going hide, but I grouped them. So I think David was showing everyone you can go to the Data tab and click on Grouping. You can also use the keyboard shortcut, Alt, Shift, and the right arrow, and that will actually increase the grouping level by 1, or decrease the grouping level if you go Alt, Shift, left. So this is probably one of the nicest tools to be able to just condense up data, to make it easier to read, easier to follow, and just set it up so that you're not hiding rows. You're letting people know that there is some data that's underneath these hidden areas, and they can easily expand it out. It's nice because you can create several hierarchies of grouping. So if I were to increase an extra level here and call this hierarchies, maybe I could set this row to be 1 level deeper than the standard grouping, and then expand that out as and when I need to see that. Likewise, I can hit Alt-Shift-Left and just pull that back to the first level grouping instead. Really useful tool. All right, but David stole my thunder on that, so I can't really talk about that. I noticed he also talked about slices too, so I'm not really going to go through that terribly much. But I thought I'd start off with one of those really basic functions that I think a lot of advanced Excel users will talk about as their go-to functions, and that is VLOOKUP. When you ask someone how good are you at Excel, do you know how to use Excel? What have you done before? A lot of accountants, a lot of people in the finance world will say, "Oh, I'm reasonably good. I can do a VLOOKUP." Best case they might be able to do an index match. Sure, okay. So let's take a look at VLOOKUP. We've got a really simple table here, and a typical VLOOKUP will be one where we're saying, let's have a name. I'll say Billy, and we're going to find their salary. So looking up Billy's name with a salary, we'll use a VLOOKUP. And the idea is you'll find Billy's name in the first column of this table. And then we'll pick out the salary column, which is the fourth column. Now I can hit enter. I can hit (0). Janet makes a comment. He didn't go deeply into grouping. Look, in 30 minutes, there's not much that we can go terribly deeply into it. So, we'll try our best as we go. So with VLOOKUP, I'm picking Billy's name through the list of employees in the table, and I'm picking the fourth column, and this is going to be my salary. Now, if I just leave it like this, a lot of people are going to say, hold on a second, you need the (0) there. That makes it a better VLOOKUP, because currently we're using an approximate match, which is the default setting. If you don't include something in this last parameter, it's going to treat it as an approximate match. And you don't want it to be an approximate. You want it to be exactly the right value. So we're going to use false instead. And that way, if I type in something incorrect, like Billy, IE, we're going to get an NA because it can't find this Billy, IE name in this list of employees. Brilliant. Okay, so that's, I guess, first sort of, have you passed the test? Yes, you know the difference between approximate and exact match. Fair enough. Here's the problem, though. If I were to delete their age, suppose we're an equal opportunity employer. We don't want people to be judging their salaries based on age, so we get rid of the age column from our database. Billy suddenly earns #ref. Oh, okay, there's a problem. What's going on here? The VLOOKUP is searching for this hard-coded 4 in the column. It's essentially looking for the fourth column, regardless of how big the table is. If we were to insert a new column based on the surname or something like that, the fourth column now becomes the age. Again, Billy suddenly doesn't earn very much. So when we're using a VLOOKUP, while most people will hard code the column reference, if we want to sort of show that we know what we're doing, we might want to be a little bit clever about it. Really, we could do some sort of reference to see where does this salary value sit in our list of columns. And so we can use some sort of tool like match, so equals match, finding the salary name in this list of columns. And here we'll use an exact match. So let me just put some notes in on the right-hand side, formula text. By the way, formula text is a really great tool if you haven't used this before. This came out in Excel 2016, I think it is. It basically shows you what the formula is in a given cell. So when you're presenting something, you can always see what the formula is and sort of keep track of that as you're going through a presentation, or as just documentation in your spreadsheets as well. Okay, so instead of using a hard-coded 4, maybe I could refer to the specific column that I'm looking for. Brilliant. Okay, and then if I want to make that a little bit smarter, maybe I can pull this entire match section and then bring that into the salary section instead. So I can complete all of this with just a single function. All right, so I've got this VLOOKUP using this match tool to find exactly which column we're looking for. Brilliant. Okay, John Peltier here is telling me, I'm basically telling us why we should use index match instead of VLOOKUP. Yeah, basically, isn't it? And this is where I make the joke that, if you're an advanced user, you're not using VLOOKUP in the first place. You're using index match. And so, to answer John's point, index and match are really great tools. Index basically says, let's find our result from here. And perhaps we want to pick out the second row in this table, in this particular column. So index, find the salary, find the second row because that's going to be Billy's salary. And then the match will be equals match, finding Billy's name in the list. And that should give us the second row, which we can then combine together. Let me just pull these formulae out. Combine these together to become a full index and match combination. Okay, now Janet makes a comment, XLOOKUP. Why can't we use that? Great question. Okay, here's why I'm not talking about XLOOKUP right now. First of all, I made the point, all of my functions that I'm using right now are at least 10 years old. So, might not want to use XLOOKUP because that only just came out a couple of years ago. That being said, XLOOKUP is really great. It does the same thing as index match, but better, because XLOOKUP allows you to substitute a value if you can't find if it can't find the value. It will give you the option to say no, can't be found. It's brilliant. XLOOKUP also allows you to do some really cool tools, like these filtering tools. You can search from the bottom to the top instead. All of your matching types are a lot smarter in XLOOKUP than using a standard match. XLOOKUP is generally good all around. The only problem is not everyone's using Office 365 right now. And if you're not using Office 365, you're not going to have XLOOKUP right now. It's going to catch up. Fair enough, XLOOKUP's definitely going to be the future, but I think maybe about 50% of people are using it. And so if 50% of your stakeholders aren't using XLOOKUP and they're going to open their file and get a whole bunch of hash name errors instead, I'll tell you that does not look very professional, unfortunately. So when you are trying to build tools that are going to be used by a wide range of stakeholders, you do want to try and be version agnostic, let's call it. You want to try and use functions that are going to work in as many different versions as possible. Alrighty, Alessandra makes the point, avoiding errors when delivering the spreadsheet to the user. You should definitely try and adopt that. Absolutely, 100%. So that's why I often stick to index and match. The other thing I like about index and match that's really cool is suppose that I want to bring up all of the values, division, age, and salary. The big advantage of this, of using index and match separately, is that I can now use an index that points to these different sections and refers back to that match function. And so if I'm using, let's say, 3 columns right now, all pointing back to match, I'll do one last one here, pointing back to the match function. When we're using index match, index is really quick. Index basically says go to cell, go to the second row, go to the 5th row, go really quickly. The time taken in a VLOOKUP or an index match is actually in the match section. It's where is this value located in this big list of results that we have. And so the less matching you have to do, the faster your functions are going to be. So in this example, if we would have XLOOKUP, we would basically have 3 sets of matching that says, find Billy, find his division, find Billy, find his age, find Billy, find his salary. Whereas if you're using index and match, you can have a single match that says, find Billy, he's in row 2. And then everything else in your table just points back to row 2. This can be a lot faster when you've got a lot of different lookups that point to different columns in your data set. It can speed up your spreadsheet tenfold. Once had a client that had 500 columns across the page and 5,000 rows down the page, and each one of those was previously powered by an index match function. Highly complicated. Just simply replacing all of those index matches with indexes and then a single match row and a single match column sped things up, I think, 30 times compared to what it was in the first place. So it's a lot faster when you only need to match once compared to 3 or 4 times. Awesome. All right. Now, I kind of glossed over the fact that we were just talking about false to say, yes, everyone use false. Absolutely. The question I've got is, who actually knows how to use approximate match, and who knows what the hell that even means, right? Suppose I'm going to push all of this out to the side now. Let's insert some columns out of the way. And we're going to look for Billy's name, and we're going to look for his salary, approximate. That's not to say that he earned approximately $60,000. That's to say that we're going to try to use an approximate match to look for them. So we'll use VLOOKUP, and we'll find Billy's name in this list, in this table. I'm just going to hard code this just for speed, and then we're going to use the approximate match here. Now, so John's making the comment, VLOOKUP can also give you wrong or unexpected answers with an inexact match. Okay, so here you go, John. It's never a wrong answer unless you've sorted your data incorrectly. It's always an unexpected answer because people get confused and they don't know how approximate match works. Yes, Claire, thank you for telling him off for that. All right, so how does approximate match actually work? If I search for Billy, you'd be surprised how many people think BILLIE will give me the same result of $60,000 because Billy IE sounds the same as Billy Y, as if that made any sense to Excel. Certainly not. Billy IE, looking at using an approximate match, is going to give me $80,000. Okay, what's going on here? The overall rule with approximate match, first of all, we need to assume that the data is in ascending order, strict ascending order. But secondly, the overarching rule is that approximate match will find the biggest value that's less than the value that we're looking for. Now, when I go to VLOOKUP and I look at the notes here, approximate match says the values in the first column of the table array must be sorted in ascending order. It doesn't actually tell us any information about what we need to do. So what I'm going to do is actually open up match instead, because I find the match description to be far more useful. So when we look at the less than, or the approximate match here in match, it says find the largest value that is less than or equal to the lookup value. And this is describing what approximate match actually does. So in the case of Billy IE, let me put a note in here, Billy IE. Billy IE sits between Amy and Billy Y because I comes before Y as the fifth character of the name. And so from a dictionary search, that will come first, which is why it's going to look for a value that's less than Billy, IE, which gives us Amy's value, because that's the only value that's smaller than that. So approximate match, it does make sense. It does work if you know how you're using it properly. And as soon as you explain to people how approximate match actually works, they then say, well, why am I using approximate match? When am I ever going to use this? Well, that's where we can actually look at an example. Here's a great example of how to use approximate match properly. We've got an input date here to say, well, what's today's date minus some number of days, fair enough. I've just got some random days through here, so don't mind those. But we're trying to find out what is my bank balance at the 18th of July. 18th of July is not a date that's on this list. So what are we doing here? 18th of July, it's going to be somewhere in between these two dates. But if you think about it, your bank balance on the 16th is going to be the same as the bank balance on the 17th and the 18th and the 19th until you get to the 20th, which is when your bank balance changes, your salary comes in and it goes up. And so all the values between the 16th and the 20th will have the same value as the 16th. And this is how you can use approximate match. And this is the real world context where approximate match actually makes sense, which is pretty rare, to be honest. So hopefully that's been a useful kind of insight as to how you might use approximate match. And even just using approximate match generally is a pretty pro sort of tool, because I think the average person just kind of discards approximate match and says, look, we don't need to use this. We don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything is an exact match. But if you use it properly, approximate match can be really cool. So I've kind of covered points 2 and 3 in this list already, which is nice. Point 4 in my list was index 0. So one of the things that we've used here with index, let me just group these cells up and jump back to our index match functions. Index will normally give us a single cell result, because we're saying look for this row, the second row of our salary data set. But suppose, let me just insert a few more rows here. Suppose we want to use index and point to a list of salaries. This is a really good tool for when you're combining it now with filter and sort and unique and all of the new dynamic array functions, because sometimes we actually just want to get the salary column in this list, right? And I might have the note column salary here, but suppose that might change. It's really difficult to point to the salary column and then have this be a dynamic link that isn't actually that will point back to, say, my column input. So if I type in age, I want to give me a list of ages. If I type in salary, I want it to give me a list of salaries. And so index is where we're actually going to find this. So we're going to use index. We're going to point to the entire table. And what we're going to do is use row 0. Now, row 1 is basically going to say, go to row 1 and take that value. If I go row 1, we'll use a match for the column name, match salary through this list at 0. What have I done here? Employees age. No, that should be employees. Looking through the entire table. Formula text. When I'm looking through the entire table, it's finding the salary column, and then it's giving me the first value because I've used row 1. When I use row 0, that's actually going to give me the full column range, this dynamic array result of all 5 different salary values, which means now I can then use this as a column input into a range of different other functions. I can use it in my sort. I can use it in my, let me just use sort quickly just to show you. I can now sort the salary column, and I can sort the age column. I can sort the division column. And these are basically ways to be able to have dynamic column references anywhere I want. I can put them in a SUMIF function. I can put them into any of my filter functions and so forth. So yeah, please do look at index 0. It is such a critical tool when you're using dynamic arrays. So if you are starting to use dynamic arrays, this is a great tool. If you're not using dynamic arrays, these are still really cool tools as well, because it means you can have this, you can just kind of put this into a basic sum. And of course, summing up a bunch of divisions is not going to work, but summing up salaries, that's perfect. That's fine. That's giving me everything I need. So this will work in Excel 10 years ago. It's fantastic. Hopefully, this is a nice tip. I can see some people are liking this, which is great. Christian's asked a question, approximate match in my example, is this similar to semi-additive measures in DAX? Not quite sure where this, to be honest, I can't answer that off the top of my head. I probably need to kind of drill into that a little bit more myself. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a DAX expert. My game is really in the grid, in the formulae themselves, rather than working in DAX. I'm not the sort of person who knows every all the 600 DAX functions and all the different M functions or anything. I get by in DAX and Power Pivot. I get by in Power Query. But yeah, my real kind of place is in the grid. So yeah. I'll try. I can come back to you and try and answer that question in the future if you like. Alrighty, index 0. That's great. Finally, I think I've got just about enough time to talk about SumProduct. So unless anyone really wants to go through these different features, I'm just going to go through a really quick SumProduct function. SumProduct, great tool. Great company as well. Don't mind me. SumProduct basically allows us to take the product of values, right? So if I look at the total cost of the shopping list, avocados, fruits, and so forth, I might take volume times the cost. If you haven't used structured references in tables before, these are really cool. The other great thing about tables is I put the formula in the first cell and it just fills all the way down. Brilliant. Then I've got to get a total of these to actually work out what is the total cost of all my stuff. I could just do the same thing using SumProduct. That basically says, take the SumProduct of the volume and the cost, and that'll give me the same result in one hit. For those who are using dynamic arrays, you can now do that without SumProduct as well, which is simply the sum of volume times cost, just in case you weren't aware. All right, so SumProduct is great. We're using a comma here in SumProduct because that's what you do with formulae, right? You go parameter 1, comma, parameter 2. All right, so let's take a look at an additional extra check in SumProduct. So is this a fruit or vegetable? So avocado, fruit or vegetable? It's a fruit. Banana is a fruit. Capsicum is also a fruit, despite its use in salads. Durian is a fruit. Eggplant is a tricky fruit as well, for those who aren't aware. Rhubarb, on the other hand, despite its use in all these lovely desserts, is actually a vegetable. So, suppose we had a rule that says, only pick out the fruits in this list. Fruit or vegetable? Which one are we actually going to pick? So we might have that same SumProduct rule that says, take the volume, take the cost, and take the fruit or vegetable where this equals, say, fruit. And so you think this should give me a result that kind of works, but it doesn't. Okay. So this is the annoying thing. When you work with SumProduct, taking I guess the fruit or vegetable bit, right? It's giving you trues and falses. And when you put trues and falses into the parameters, they just don't work properly. What you really need to do is convert them to ones and zeros. So if I were to just use F9 here, by the way, you can use F9 to evaluate your results in the formula. F9 basically converts them to trues and falses. But if I were to take, say, 1 times this, then that's going to give me, whoops, 1 times this will give me ones and zeros. And ones and zeros are smart enough to flow into a dynamic array, a SumProduct function or dynamic array, as the case may be, and that'll then work properly. So this simple conversion of just going from trues and falses to ones and zeros just by times 1. A lot of people use minus as well, because minus true is -1, and then minus that brings you back to a 1 again. That's another way that you can kind of split it out and convert it back to ones and zeros. Here's another trick. Commas basically work the same way as our dynamic array times. And so what you could effectively do instead is get rid of the commas and replace these with multiplications. And that's actually going to give you the same result without the ×1 and the minus and so forth. Because what now we're saying is, let's take this value times that value times the true or false, and it's treating it like an array. So, when you take those, it's going to take the first value of each times the second value of each, the third value of each, and so on, and then multiply them all together. So using times in a SumProduct sort of reduces the need to have all of these ×1, minus, and so forth. Just another trick you can use, and that kind of goes hand in hand with how you would use it using a dynamic array. So hopefully that kind of sort of protects you for the future. All right, I'm out of time, so I'm going to cut myself short here. If anyone does want to contact me, please feel free to drop me an email. More than happy for people to get in touch and tell me how much you love this, tell me how much you hate this presentation. Come check out our website. We've got a lot of different links on how to do Excel better generally. Daily or weekly blogs on Power Pivot, Power Query, Power BI, different charting tools, and so forth. Otherwise, hit me up. I'm more than happy to have a chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And sorry, Cristiano, I've gone 1 minute over again. So hopefully you'll catch that up sometime.
Great. Thank you very much. We are jumping to the next session, and I'm sure I'm going to watch this again. Thank you very much, team. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.